50 degrees Celsius. That is the temperature inside a working factory in Noida, India, not the air outside. Inside, a diesel generator at the factory entrance was throwing heat directly at the workers every time they crossed the driveway. The client called an architect, not an engineer, not an HVAC company, an architect. His name was Monish Siripurapu. He did not bring a catalogue of cooling units, he brought terracotta, unglazed clay cones, the kind local potters had been making for centuries. He stacked them in the shape of a beehive and ran recycled water from the factory over the surface. No compressor, no refrigerant, no electrical installation. The temperature around the installation dropped from 50 degrees Celsius to 36. 14 degrees gone, pulled out of the air by dirt and water. The global HVAC industry, the industry that sells compressors, refrigerants, and service contracts, is worth over $300 billion a year. $300 billion. And a stack of clay solved the same problem for the cost of a few afternoons of a local potter's time. That gap deserves a question. By the end of this video, you will have one. What Monish Siripurapu built in 2017 was not an invention. It was a memory wall paintings from ancient Egypt, dated to 2500 BC. Show slaves fanning porous clay jars filled with water. The vapor coming off the wet clay dropped the air temperature in the room. They knew this worked. They built entire architectural systems around it. The mashrabiyah, a latticed wooden screen found throughout the Middle East, was designed specifically to channel airflow over wet clay pots placed behind it. The malkaf, a wind-catching tower common in Egyptian homes, pulled air from above, passed it over water, and sent it down into the living space below. These were not experiments. These were the standard architecture of entire cities, and then sometime in the 20th century, they stopped being built. Not because they stopped working. Nobody asked why. Here is the scale of what we are dealing with. Right now, air conditioning accounts for 10% of all electricity consumed on Earth. Not 10% of building electricity. 10% of everything. Every power plant. Every grid. Every country. That number comes from the International Energy Agency, not from a think tank with an agenda. And by 2050, the IEA projects that global demand for air conditioning will triple. Triple the number of air conditioning units in the world will grow from 1.6 billion to 5.6 billion. That is 10 new air conditioners sold every second for the next 30 years. Every second. The global HVAC industry is now worth over $300 billion a year. A standard residential air conditioner is designed to last 10 to 15 years. Then it is replaced. The compressor requires annual servicing. The refrigerant requires certified technicians to handle. Every part of this system generates recurring revenue for someone. Now consider the beehive cooler, unglazed terracotta. No moving parts. No refrigerant. No annual service contract. One installation at Ant Studio's Noida project has been running on recycled factory water, 200 litres topped up each week. No replacement cycle. There is no recurring revenue in a stack of clay that outlasts the building around it. And that, more than any technical limitation, is the reason most people have never heard of it. But there is something else. Something that the industry does not talk about, and it starts with what everyone, including most engineers, believes this technology cannot do. Ask any engineer about evaporative cooling and you will hear the same answer. Works in the desert, useless everywhere else. This belief is so widespread that it has effectively removed the technology from consideration in most of the world. And the belief is based on a real physical fact. When air is already saturated with moisture, water cannot evaporate easily. Less evaporation means less cooling. In a humid climate, a simple flat wet pad gives you very little. That is true. That part is correct. But here is what the standard explanation leaves out. The beehive cooler is not a flat wet pad. The geometry changes everything. When air is forced through a narrow cylindrical tube, its velocity increases. Faster-moving air evaporates water more aggressively, even in conditions where slow-moving air would not. This is the Venturi effect, a documented principle of fluid dynamics, not a claim. The circular interior also creates turbulence. Turbulent air does not pass smoothly over a surface. It spins. It strikes the walls repeatedly. Every point of contact is a heat transfer event. Siripurapu did not choose the beehive shape for aesthetics. He chose it because it maximizes surface area in the smallest possible footprint. More surface, more contact, more evaporation. The flat pad limitation was real. The conclusion drawn from it was not. The shape is doing as much work as the water, which brings us to the second belief. The one that even specialists get wrong. Even people who accept evaporative cooling have a second objection. And this one is more sophisticated. The argument goes like this. Evaporative cooling works in dry climates, but the reason it disappeared from modern construction has nothing to do with industry. It disappeared because building codes evolved to require sealed, mechanically ventilated envelopes. Passive open systems. Systems that breathe with the outside environment simply do not meet the standards. This is presented as neutral, as if the codes wrote themselves, but codes do not write themselves. In July 1902, a 25-year-old engineer named Willis Haviland Carrier installed the world's first modern air conditioning system at a printing plant in Brooklyn, New York. The problem he was solving was humidity control. Ink was smearing because the paper expanded in damp air. By 1915, Carrier had co-founded the Carrier Engineering Corporation. By the 1950s, mechanical air conditioning had moved from industrial spaces into American homes. The building standards that followed, sealed envelopes, mechanical ventilation requirements, were written around the assumption that mechanical cooling was the baseline. Passive breathing systems were not excluded by accident. They were excluded by design, the design of an industry that had already decided what cooling looked like. The humidity argument was real. The reason the technology was sidelined was not. And that changes everything about how we read the next 100 years of cooling history. Have you seen a building near you that stays cool without air conditioning? A courtyard, a thick wall, a basement that never gets warm? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone, and if what you are hearing right now does not match what you were taught, you are not alone, and you are not wrong. Now we can look at what is actually happening inside that stack of clay. There are 3 mechanisms working at the same time. The first is capillary action. Unglazed terracotta is filled with millions of microscopic channels. When the surface of the clay is wetted, water is pulled through these channels by surface tension. The entire body of the clay, every outer surface, becomes and stays saturated. This is not a spray. It is a continuous migration of water to the surface. The second mechanism is the Venturi effect combined with turbulence. As hot air is pulled into the narrow cylindrical tubes, its speed increases. The circular interior forces the air into a spinning motion. Every molecule of air is forced into contact with the saturated clay wall. The third mechanism is evaporative heat stripping. When water changes from liquid to vapor, it must absorb energy to do so. That energy is heat. It comes directly from the air passing through the tube. The air exits colder because its thermal energy has been converted into the latent heat of evaporation. No compressor involved, no chemical refrigerant, just a phase change and physics. Now consider why glazed ceramic, plastic, or metal cannot do this. All 3 materials have surfaces that are effectively sealed. No capillary channels, no surface migration of water. The air passing over them carries away nothing. The beehive cooler works not despite being a primitive material, but because of the physics embedded in that material. There is one more effect worth noting. As air moves through wet terracotta, it picks up an earthy scent, similar to petrichor, the smell associated with rain falling on dry soil. Researchers established that humans can detect geosmin, the compound behind this scent, at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion. The sensory response to this scent is documented. It triggers associations with relief and cool conditions. The cooling is both physical and perceptual, 3 mechanisms, working in combination for thousands of years. Noida, India, 2017. The factory driveway at Deki Electronics. The diesel generator sat at the entrance. Workers had to cross that driveway to enter the building. 50 degrees Celsius. Every crossing. Monish Suriparapu stood in that driveway. He was not looking at the generator. He was looking at the market outside the factory gate. A vendor was selling water in unglazed terracotta pots. The outside of each pot was damp, water seeping through the clay, evaporating at the surface, keeping the water inside cooler than the air outside. He later said, "It is a very simple innovation. In India and many other places, we still use traditional terracotta pots to cool water. We tried to use the same concept, just reversing the system and keeping the principles the same." He did not go to a laboratory. He did not file a patent. He went to the local potters. 700 terracotta cones, arranged in the geometry of a beehive, water recycled from the factory itself. The installation cost a fraction of what any mechanical alternative would have, and it worked. The Noida results were measured. They were not estimated. The temperature of the air entering the installation, 50 degrees Celsius. The temperature of the air exiting, 36 degrees Celsius. 14 degrees of heat stripped from the air by clay and water. The energy draw of the entire system, less than 1 unit of electricity per hour. For context, a standard window air conditioner draws 8 to 10 units per hour for a single room. The Noida installation was not cooling one room. It was managing an industrial-scale heat island from a diesel generator. The system ran on 200 litres of recycled factory water per week. No external water supply needed. The physics behind the result is not disputed. Capillary action through porous unglazed clay is a documented material property. The Venturi effect in cylindrical tubes is a standard principle of fluid dynamics. Evaporative heat transfer is the same mechanism used in industrial cooling towers that serve power plants worldwide. The only difference is the material: terracotta instead of plastic fill, and natural airflow instead of powered fans. Since Noida Ant Studio has implemented the system in cafes, schools, railway stations, and residential buildings. The UN Environment Programme covered the project. CNN International covered it. The physics did not change between those installations. What changed was the scale. This is not a construction manual, but understanding why this works requires understanding three material principles. The first principle is unglazed porosity. The glaze on a ceramic pot is a glass seal. It fills the microscopic channels in the clay. Once glazed, a pot cannot wick water to its surface. It cannot evaporate. It cannot cool. The unglazed surface is not a rustic choice. It is the functional requirement. The second principle is surface area geometry. A flat wet wall and a honeycomb of wet tubes contain the same volume of material, but the honeycomb exposes many times more surface area to the passing air. More surface area means more evaporation. More evaporation means more heat removed. Siripurapu specifically chose concentric circles, 2 surfaces per tube, inner and outer, to maximize this. The third principle is continuous moisture supply. Capillary action works only as long as there is a water source to draw from. In the Noida installation, a small pump circulated factory wastewater to the top of the stack. Water dripped down. Capillary action pulled it through. The system was self-sustaining as long as the water supply ran. Siripurapu later noted that the installation could run without any pump at all. Manual top-up once or twice a day would suffice. 3 principles, none of them patented, none of them new. Siripurapu made the entire system open source, available to anyone, anywhere, at any scale. There is no business model here that requires your annual service contract. We chose the system that requires a certified technician. They chose the one that requires a potter. In July 1902, Willis Carrier solved a humidity problem at a printing plant in Brooklyn. His solution worked. It was remarkable engineering, but the industry that followed made a decision that Carrier himself never made. It decided that mechanical cooling was the only kind of cooling. Building codes were written around it. Engineering curricula were built around it. Passive breathing systems, systems used for thousands of years before 1902, were quietly classified as inadequate. Not because they failed, because they did not generate a service contract. The IEA projects that energy demand from air conditioning will triple by 2050. That tripling will require electricity generation equivalent to the combined capacity of the United States, the EU, and Japan today. We are building power plants to cool buildings that could cool themselves. We did not build past this technology. We were sold past it. And the bill arrives every month. The same pattern, a working technology sidelined because it could not be monetized, runs through how we build roads, how we pour concrete, how we treat water. It is all here.